Two potential American presidential candidates for 2028 took the stage at the Munich Security Conference, and they brought two very different visions of America's future. Let's get into it.
We are connected culturally. We want Europe to be strong. We believe that Europe must survive.
Before we go further, my name is Casey, and I have been a husband, father, therapist, and concerned conservative man for more than a decade, and I started this channel to try to establish a future of faith, fatherhood, and freedom for my 4 kids. If you can get behind that at all, please like, share, and subscribe on the way in. Let's get into what these two potential presidential candidates said in Munich and why it matters.
But they are not the fundamental one. The fundamental question we must answer at the outset is, what exactly are we defending? Because armies do not fight for abstractions. Armies fight for a people. Armies fight for a nation. Armies fight for a way of life. And that is what we are defending. A great civilization that has every reason to be proud of its history, confident of its future, and aims to always be the master of its own economic and political destiny. It was here, in Europe, where the ideas that planted the seeds of liberty that changed the world were born. It was here in Europe which gave the world the rule of law.
Marco Rubio delivered about a 30-minute speech to the Munich Security Conference in which he detailed a lot of the ways that he believes, along with what J.D. Vance said several months ago, that the European heartbeat has been declining and that they're simply letting the managed decline overtake them and create a cultural malaise, as well as giving them none of the motivation required to hold up their end of the military bargains that America has been striking, especially those in wars like Ukraine, Gaza, Iran, and others.
Cost us dearly. In this delusion, we embraced a dogmatic vision of free and unfettered trade, even as some nations protected their economies and subsidized their companies to systematically undercut ours, shuttering our plants.
Marco Rubio also continues to beat the drum that the post-war consensus is over, and this is music to my ears, and the ways that he certainly will differ from AOC is that the liberal world order, which has pressed so much globalism and so many ways has deterred the American industrial project, and from where I sit in Ohio has declined all of the job opportunities along with the cultural heritage of the people who live here has all been dashed because of the ways that the post-war consensus has driven industry elsewhere. And Marco Rubio speaks directly to the fact that he, along with other Trump administration officials, is trying to put the post-war consensus to bed.
Unprecedented wave of mass migration that threatens the cohesion of our societies, the continuity of our culture, and the future of our people. We made these mistakes together, and now together we owe it to our people to face those facts and to move forward, to rebuild.
In my opinion, as a therapist, there has been an incredible amount of PTSD that's been experienced by the people in Europe that prevented them from regaining some of the traction that they needed to feel self-esteem, to feel pride in their countries. But the bent towards nationalism has been increasing and on the rise, and that's part of what AOC tried to warn the Europeans about, is that this malaise has led to the rise of nationalism and right-wing parties throughout their polities, and she came saying it's time to reinvent the global order in a way that goes back towards the managed decline, back towards globalism. And yes, she's even beating the Marxist drum about the worker first, worker this, worker that, along with calling our American identity and heritage thin and one of oppression and racism.
You are starting to see the ascent of the right, even in places like Munich. Marco Rubio's speech was a pure appeal to Western culture when he said that American cowboys came from Spain
I thought they came from Winnetou, but
I believe the Mexicans and descendants of African enslaved peoples would like to have a word on that. But I think it's also important to note how thin that foundation is. Culture is changing. Culture always changed. Culture, for the entire history of human civilization, has been a fluid, evolving thing that is a response to the conditions that we live in. And so they want to take this mantle of culture at the...
Rubio is saying that the world respects power and that power politics is back and that nationalism is necessary in order for the European countries to defend themselves from incursions, both internal and external. And the constant migration and immigration has actually depleted some of what made them great in the first place. And those are the warnings that AOC brought to the table, is that she's simply saying that it's time to revisit the liberal world order, the open society, and she's even using some Marxist talking points about class struggle, which is surprising because in the last 20 years, the liberal world order has attempted to make the Marxist project one more of race and other ethnicity, intersectionality. It's all about intersectional politics. How many victim cards can you possibly carry at once? That's who needs to be at the pinnacle of the hierarchy. That's who needs to be at the top of society. AOC, knowing that people in elections will really appreciate checks written to them, is reinstituting the class struggle and the class warfare inherent to the Marxist dogma as she goes throughout this Munich Security Conference, beating the same old open society drum.
It is very thin. And so the response that we have to have is, again, it's material, it's class-based, it's common interest. There was certainly more openness to what I was saying than probably there would be in years past. We can't underestimate the appeal of going back to these well-worn grooves. A lot of what we talk about when we talk about a class-based internationalist perspective also means ending the hypocrisy towards the global south.
The contrast of these two politicians in Munich is one who is speaking about sovereignty first and one who is speaking about equity first. This is two very different visions for America and two very different potential futures from these presidential candidates in 2028. If you can get behind a future of faith, fatherhood, and freedom, and one that defends itself against the Marxist dogma, please like, share, and subscribe. I'd love your support.